Hello, I'm Dr. Craig Klein, Dean of Rio Grande Community College Programming. The show is the voice of Rio Grande. My guest today is Mr. Don Armstrong, Director of the Buckeye Hills Career Center. All coming up next. Hello, and welcome to the Voice of Rio Grande. I'm Craig Klein, the Dean of Community College Programming for Rio Grande Community College. Today my guest is Mr. Don Armstrong, the Director of the Buckeye Hills Career Center, a second educational opportunity facility located in Rio Grande, Ohio. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being asked to come over, and I know that you and I have a lot of good conversations, and we work together a lot in our two institutions. So.
We do. Well, I'm very pleased that you could give us a few minutes today and so we can talk about Buckeye Hills. So, as the introduction said, it is a career center. Mm-hmm. So, what distinguishes a career center from other educational possibilities?
Well, Buckeye Hills Career Center is really divided into two segments. One is a high school. We have 7 local high schools that feed us in a 3-county area. Gallia, Jackson, and Vinton counties, the high schools there feed us for the high school portion of it. This year we have about 550 enrolled in the high school. But in addition to that, we also have an adult career center. We are what the state calls an Ohio Technical Center, which is the adult version of a technical center. And so at that point, we have another couple hundred people that are adults that that register for our programs.
Okay. So are these co-located in the same set of buildings and so forth, or are they separated over on your campus?
Yeah. Well, Buckeye Hills has 5 different buildings. And part of those are devoted to adult, but some of the heavier labs, such as welding and HVAC, will be using the same facility that the high school uses, only in the evenings. We usually run Monday through Thursday from, let's say, 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and so it's really an efficient use of taxpayer money.
Okay. So again, both for traditional high school age students and adult students, an adult is defined as 21 and over?
Well, actually 18.
18.
Now, there is a few compensations when somebody wants an adult certification, even when they're still in high school, but the majority of our people have graduated, or they are at least have stopped going to conventional high school. You know, conventional high school, you're supposed to go till you're 18. So at 18, at that point, you can decide where to go from there. So.
Okay, so but my guess is that the average age for the adults is probably a little older than that?
Yes, our average age is actually 28, and only about 10 to 15% of our adult classes are coming straight from high school. What that means is you have several people that have gone out into the world. Maybe they've worked, maybe they've gotten married, maybe they've had a couple kids. I mean, a couple years ago, I know that we graduated a 52-year-old nurse, which was very exciting. A lot of support there, you know, where somebody is now getting a degree they've always wanted to have, you know. But then we do have the 18-year-olds as well. So.
Okay. So the 18-year-olds and below, you probably start them as high school juniors?
Yes.
Most of the programs we're going to take a look at here in a minute?
Yeah. Buckeye Hills Career Center in this location, they come as juniors, as 11th graders. We do have some satellite programs in the home schools that will actually start in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, 12th, and such as some of the agriculture in the home schools are actually owned by Buckeye Hills. But for the most part, we're just dealing with 11th and 12th graders, and we deal with 16 programs in the high school. We used to have 15. We just added a new program that is kind of exciting that we'll talk about later.
We'll get to that very shortly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to like to start with the adults.
Okay.
And could we have the first slide, please? There we go. So would the same logo be used without the adult on that for the Career Center itself?
We have another emblem, which is the 3 counties in the high school. Keep in mind, when your high school is zeroed in on Jackson, Gallia, and Vinton counties, then that's where that picture comes from. But now adult is quite different. We have people from West Virginia. We have people from the middle of Ohio or all the way to Cincinnati, depending on what we offer and what they want to accomplish.
I see. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these adults. There we go. Let's see if we can name off the trades here.
Well, I think we have most of the trades there. In adult, we have cosmetology. We have, but we also have several medical fields. We've got surgical technology. Our biggest healthcare is practical nursing. We start out with about 40 practical nurses each year. Surgical technology is about 15 we usually have, and then there's a new medical assisting program that we've just implemented. We have moved into more of a national certification through the something called an NCMOA and NCMA, and so we're excited because that program only has a capacity of 20, and we have already 19 signed up in that, and we moved it from a 936-hour to an 1,100-hour program. Yep. We also have welding. We have an HVAC course. It's not actually a program, but the welding is a program. We have our new ARMS program, which is a manufacturing program in adult. We have OPOTC, which peace officer, which is our goes through OPATA, which is actually training deputy sheriffs and people like that.
Well, we actually have a slide of that.
Oh,
I do believe it's of something that relates.
Yes.
So people, let me think. OPCTC.
OPOTC.
OPOTC.
It's a higher police officers.
Training,
and then the C, it basically goes to OPATA, which is the association, but the C is the course.
Okay.
Okay.
So how long is the program and what kinds of things are they taught?
Well, one of our goals is to have a nice transition. Like for instance, in the high school, we have a criminal justice class. Now that criminal justice class doesn't have the shooting range and that type thing, but a lot of them roll right into a preparatory thing in law enforcement, or they go into security. And several of them, we're only talking maybe 2 or 3 of them, will actually go into the OPOTC peace officer straight from high school. And right now, we are being very well sought after. To give you an idea, the one strength of Buckeye Hills adult is that we can actually afford to run programs with relatively few numbers in them. Like we may start out with 11 peace officers, for instance, and even though there's a little bit of, because it is a tough program, it's a 730-hour program, and we might end up with 8 graduates. And we can come out on that, and it's not a big profit type thing, But we just had a graduation July 26th, for instance, and there were 7 graduates from the OPOTC, and every one of them already had jobs. We had one lady and 6 men, and they, in their graduation, they actually had the uniforms of their employers on. You know, so that's kind of exciting when they already have jobs.
And that you can viably run smaller groups of people, smaller groups of students is a real advantage, I would think.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is, and part of that is because we use the same facilities as the high school.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good transition to the high school part, or to the other set. We clearly have a need for well-trained, trade and technically skilled people in this area. So how does one elect to attend Buckeye if I'm a high school student in the area? I just wake up one day and say, hey, I'd like to go to Buckeye. I'm sure it doesn't work like that.
Well, it's almost like that. You know, as a sophomore, they have to, they'll ask them to enroll. Anybody that's interested in going to Buckeye Hills, they actually sign up. Now, the later they wait, there's a chance that that program might be full. Like even now, 2 days before, I mean, a week before school starts, somebody could come and say, hey, I've changed my mind, I'm going to Buckeye Hills, you know, into the 11th grade. We even allow seniors to come down, and even though they're only able to get 1 year in, they can still come down. Sure. But if you wait this late, and it's a program such as Welding, for instance, that's one that always fills up, and then chances are we're going to have to say, sorry, you're not going to be able to work your way into welding.
Okay. So does a student from coming from the high school take everything that they need at Buckeye, or do they split their time between the high school and Buckeye Hills?
No, because we are a career center, we're a joint vocational center, and not what they call a comprehensive. They usually come to us totally. In other words, half a day they'll be doing their academics. They're doing the math and English. We have regular math, English, science teachers, government teachers. And then the second half of the day is when our seniors will be totally in the lab. It's reversed for first years.
Okay, understood. I'd like to remind everyone that you are watching The Voice of Rio Grande. And my guest today is Mr. Don Armstrong, the director of the Buckeye Hills Career Center. I'm Craig Klein. So let's take a look at some of these possibilities, some of these programs, some of the options. And we'll take a look first. This has to be cosmetology. And
yeah.
So tell me about this program. How many hours and what do you do when you finish, other than the obvious? I mean.
Yes, cosmetology is one of the few that have a required state board test. In other words, if you don't pass that state test, you're not going to be working in a salon. But we have an amazing rate. 100% of our high school cosmetology students that finished and 100% of our adult all got their certification. And it's exciting. Now that in our adult, it's actually our longest hour program. It's 1,500 hours. Wow. And but we have you know, made enough hours to support them in a lot of different ways. Instead of only cutting hair, they're actually learning to run a business, you know, that kind of stuff.
I would think that would be a significant advantage. So not just the skill itself, but then how to actually make a living from it.
Right.
You know, being able to trade on that skill and be able to run your own numbers.
It really does. The rules are a little different in high school. They allow a certain amount of biology and a certain amount of some of the math to actually count towards that 1,500 hours for high school, but the training is the same.
Okay.
And so we're excited about that. But the biggest thing in our career tech is, especially in the high school, is now this is the first time that a lot of these kids have said, hey, this is my future. I'm going to make some kind of an adult decision to actually roll into something that I'm going to get a credential and I'm going to get a job.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the next one. I believe it's construction. It is construction. And are these people working on, say, a house?
Yes.
This
is one thing we're really proud of. Mr. Bing, which is our construction person in the high school, he's an experienced guy that has done state jobs. He's run crews, and now we were fortunate enough to pick him up a couple years ago. And they actually build one house a year. They actually finish one house and will start another house. Then the next year they'll finish that house and start another house. Now we've been, years ago we used to auction these houses off. Now we do it for Habitat for Humanity. And it's nice to have that contract to say, you know, we just charge them what we have in it, but it also, we don't have to worry about trying to sell it.
So the students get to actually meet the family that eventually moves in?
Well, they at least find out about it.
They find out about it.
But something else, because it is for Habitat for Humanity, those houses have to be state inspected. That all the guidelines, the standard, you know, I've built a couple houses myself, and there was no state inspection. So you just do your best, but not here. You had everything state inspected to code and so forth. So it definitely puts a standard. The people that go through our construction program, if they're willing to work, that I'm telling you, they're 100% employed.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's terrific. It's terrific, and it's just a really interesting, viable way to give something back to the community in the area.
It really is.
Okay, let's take a look at the next one. HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning?
Yes.
Okay.
In the high school we have a full program, you know, but in the adult we just have a course, because there's a lot of construction people that would like to enrich their knowledge in the adult. But Mr. Cheney is just an awesome instructor. We usually have that full. And the one advantage, too, of our high school, we are actually able to put some money in equipment. Career Tech, it has equipment money that's allotted, which is nice, because they'll actually take real new you know, units and take them apart, put them together, make them work, and so forth.
Okay,
so.
good. I think that's terrific. The equipment looks actually pretty recent. It looks new, and it looks like it's well maintained.
It is.
That's good. Let's take a look at the next one. Welding.
Welding is, like I said, the welding is so much in demand. We have an adult welding and a high school welding, and our high school welding is normally full. Our adult welding is close to full this year because it's so marketable. We had a young man, just a couple, that graduated from high school a couple years ago, and he comes back and talks to our kids because he's making six figures in a salary. Not that money it matters, but you know, doing something that you like to do. See, the one thing about businesses, you know, that we don't have to get every person to the point that they're ready to totally work with no supervision. So much of the bigger businesses are looking for people that have basic understanding. They've proven themselves as strong workers, and then the business actually takes them to the next level. And,
okay.
You know.
Very good. One more slide here in the tech and trade area. What am I looking at?
Well, this is a robot. You know, we are very pleased. In adult, we call it industrial maintenance, but we have been developing over the last 3 years a wonderful industrial maintenance program, which has almost 100% placement, you know, in jobs, and we have invested quite a bit of money in robots and what they call CNC machines and simulators and PLCs, and which is programmable logic controllers. And there was so much demand that this coming year we started basically an industrial maintenance program in the high school, and we call it ARMS, Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Systems.
Wow.
And we hired a guy, his name is Tim Howard, and he's excited. We're actually giving him a year where he'll only deal with first-year students this year, and then next year, the first year will be second year and have a full load next year.
That's exciting. That's very exciting to
It
start
is.
that. I'd like to remind everyone, this is the Voice of Rio Grande, and my guest today is Mr. Don Armstrong, who is the director of the Buckeye Hills Career Center. So there's one more part to this that I want to ask you about, healthcare, career pathways.
Healthcare, wow, that's a biggie. In the high school, it's a little more challenging in that you've got what they call DIT or DHO, I'm sorry, which is where they prepare for the students to go into their second year into patient care. But they're going to leave with some certifications. They're going to leave with an STNA, which is nurse aide. They're going to leave with a phlebotomy degree. And then there's a couple other degrees that deal with taking blood and so forth. But then in our adult programs, we have the practical nursing, we have surg tech, and then we also have the separate STNA and the phlebotomy, the nurse aide type stuff. Now, something that's in both programs too is what we call medical assisting.
Okay.
The medical assisting we have in the high school, and we also have it in adult.
So here we have people practicing phlebotomy, and now this one has to be surg tech, I'm guessing?
That's surg tech, yes. And
okay.
we had a comment by one of our doctors that oversees, in a loose way, oversees the program. And when I heard the comment that he said that this is probably one of the top 2 surg tech trainings in the state, that made us feel pretty good.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's a very nice thing to hear.
It is.
And surg tech, just to be clear, is the fine art of assisting with instruments?
In surgery.
In the OR.
If the doctors are doing the thing, but unless there's somebody to hand them the right equipment and and prepare it, and that's where they're coming from.
I know we're starting to run a little short on time, but I did want to ask, for all of these programs, Buckeye Hills does assist with placement?
They assist with placement. They also have, if it's 600 hours or more, there's financial aid available.
Okay.
There's Pell Grants, which is money that you would not spend back or pay back. And then there's an adult diploma opportunity that the state does. That's a wonderful thing. If you're 22 years old and do not have a high school diploma, the state will actually pay for the program. And most of our programs we allow to go through adult diploma.
Okay.
And then they'll end up with a diploma.
That's terrific. So that everything gets filled in along the way. And most people can do any of these things in 2 years or less?
Actually, all of our programs are 1 year now, except for our partnership respiratory therapy with Rio Grande.
That's right.
That's an associate degree. You would actually graduate from Rio. You'd actually pay your tuition to Rio. We do a lot of the clinical part of that, and where Rio does a lot of the academic and some of the clinical.
And there are other pathways to the Rio Grande community, and not just the community college, but eventually, if things work out, to the university as well. So we have programs here, clearly, that lead to what we call an ATS degree, an Associate in Technical Studies. But those programs can also transfer into 4 years. So a person could, if they stayed at Rio Grande and stayed in the village of Rio Grande, they could actually go quite far.
Yeah, and we're really excited about that. It's called articulation agreements, and I've worked with you, as you know. You've been very accommodating because if, for instance, if there's a 600-hour program, it could result into 20 semester hours being accredited at Rio towards this ATS, Associate of
So you
Technological
actually credit
Studies.
your clock hours, your total clock hours towards college credit.
Right,
Yeah.
semester credits
That's right.
once they come over, so that's something.
That works great. Anything that you feel that should be said at this point or that we haven't quite covered yet?
It's just an opportunity, whether it be Rio Grande University, community college, well, we should be very pleased that we have a Buckeye Hills Career Center, and we have a Buckeye Hills Adult Career Center, and we have a Rio Grande Community College and a Rio Grande University. Because those are opportunities where people aren't traveling 3 hours or 2 hours, to go after something.
They're essentially probably the same time to get to either Buckeye Hills or to Rio Grande.
Yes, and 100% of our people, are, of course, are commuters, and a large portion of yours is commuters as
That's
well
true. That's
because
true.
of the region. I don't think people understand how important it is. And me, where I'm a little bit older, I realized how tough it was in this area to find those opportunities.
Okay. I think there we're probably at the point where we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
So Buckeye Hills, high school, adults, high school diploma completion, transferable over to Rio Grande Community College and perhaps ultimately to University of Rio Grande. But in any case, whether it's trade and tech, healthcare, or peace officer training, opportunities really abound at Buckeye Hills.
They really do.
Yep. So with that, I want to say thank you for being on the show. My guest is Mr. Don Armstrong, and he is the director of the Buckeye Hills Career Center in Rio Grande, Ohio. I'm Craig Klein. I am the Dean of Community College Programming at Rio Grande Community College. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey.